In today's video, and as part of our series dedicated to effective communication, we're going to dive into one of the most essential topics in communication, persuasion in debate and discussion. Mastering the art of persuasion isn't just an advantage, it's a crucial skill in every area of life, professional, personal, and business. Because when you know how to persuade, you can get a lot of things done. You make people listen to your ideas, support them, and even make it impossible for them to say no. You are able to move others. You make things happen. Stay tuned, because this could transform the way you communicate and be crucial to the results you achieve. In communication with awareness, debating is not about winning an argument. It's not about going into combat, knocking down your opponent, or feeding your ego at someone else's expense. Nor is it simply about convincing others with the gift of words. The approach to debate that comes with communication awareness focuses on conveying ideas in a persuasive, charismatic, and logical way, with the goal that everyone in the conversation comes out as a winner. Everyone gains perspective, information, everyone grows, everyone feels good, and everyone leaves strengthened. It's a process of mutual enrichment. It's about fostering a win-win interaction in any context where we operate. And to achieve this, we must have an open mind and the willingness to learn from those around us. Thus, the essence of a good debate will be the exchange of ideas with the goal of gaining perspective, understanding, and objectivity. And often the way in which ideas are communicated, the package, matters more than the content itself. How we express our ideas can be what truly makes the difference. But many people aren't trained. They're not comfortable confronting ideas, or they don't know how to argue their message and ideas skillfully. But here's the good news. Persuasion and the skills to argue, discuss, and debate are trainable skills, and it's all a matter of committing to mastering them and championing it. Let's talk about the pillars of persuasion in debating. First, the Aristotelian triad is essential not only for persuasion, but also for mastering the art of debate. It is the most powerful persuasion framework in history. In ancient times, Aristotle referred to rhetoric as the art of persuasion, and he spoke of three fundamental pillars: ethos, which is credibility, reputation, and authority; pathos, which appeals to emotion; and logos, which is based on reason and logic. These three pillars form the triangle of persuasion, and mastering them is key in everything we say. When you understand and apply these principles, you hold a powerful tool that transforms your ability to influence and communicate effectively. Ethos is about conveying trust. It's about demonstrating that we know what we're doing and saying, and that we have the credibility and authority to address the topic. So, how do we gain this credibility or authority? We can use our internal authority, showcasing our achievements and goals. Alternatively, we can rely on external authority, for example by drawing on our education from a prestigious university or school, our experience, or the backing of influential companies or individuals. Or we can also leverage delegated authority, borrowing the power of experts, studies, or relevant figures, and referencing their work to give weight to our words. Pathos is about making an emotional connection. It aims to identify and connect with people's desires and needs. Beyond reason, emotion is essential. It's about touching the feelings and emotions of the audience. How is this achieved? By thoroughly studying the audience and identifying their fears, desires, goals, longings, and concerns. Empathy is key, putting yourself in their shoes, truly understanding what they think, what they feel, and what matters to them. Where are they on Maslow's hierarchy of needs? Imagine company leadership presenting a change, like relocating the workplace, which may cause resistance. Instead of imposing it, using pathos to connect emotionally with employees leads to greater acceptance. They might say, "I understand this change may cause concern, but it's designed to give us more freedom, better work-life balance, and time for loved ones. This is an investment in our well-being and a more balanced future for all." And logos. And here we talk about logic and reason, data, statistics, studies. It's about showing that what we're proposing is grounded in solid evidence. Data is often used to back up decisions because when people see that what we're saying has a rational foundation, supported by data, probabilities, statistics, or studies, they're much more likely to accept it. Now we've covered the three pillars of the Aristotelian triad. I propose an exercise for training. Take a recent email you've sent in any context, for example, professional, and rewrite it applying the three pillars of persuasion: ethos, pathos, and logos. First, ensure your message conveys credibility, ethos, showing that you are trustworthy and capable. Then, connect emotionally with your recipient, pathos, addressing topics that concern or excite them. Finally, Incorporate logical reasons and data, logos, to back up your proposal or request, making it more persuasive. By applying these 3 pillars, you'll see how your communication becomes more effective and convincing. Now let's move on to the second pillar of persuasion applied to debate: know your audience. To touch the heart of your audience, you first need to know them deeply. Persuasion happens in the emotional realm, and to achieve it, you must tailor your content to what truly matters to them. What are their pain points? What do they long for? What needs must be fulfilled? Conduct a thorough analysis. Who are they? Where do they come from? What is their age range? What challenges do they face? People don't buy just with reason, but with their hearts, self-love, courage, desires for acceptance and validation. These are the emotional drivers that enable you to persuade. This type of strategy is commonly used by skilled influencers and certain personal development gurus, who are frequent on social media today and expertly manipulate their audiences by using very sophisticated psychological tactics. These individuals exploit deep emotional wounds in their followers, such as fear of rejection, vulnerability, and abandonment, to manipulate their insecurities and offer them an apparently simple solution to their problems. They also create a false sense of authority by showcasing their own success and that of their followers, often flaunting luxury and glamour with images of Lamborghinis, mansions, etc., in order to display their superiority. These techniques, which often include the creation of an exclusive tribe or community, are not just a marketing strategy, but a reflection of how psychology and social engineering can exploit human emotions to achieve highly effective persuasion results, though often questionable. I'm not saying that this is the case for all products being offered, but it is essential to know how to evaluate them before investing. Learning to identify these types of techniques is crucial for recognizing when and when not to purchase a product. It helps us discern whether we are facing a truly valuable product or service that is worth investing our time and money in. The third pillar of persuasion in debate is active listening. And I say active listening because we must be highly attentive to the other person, identifying fallacies, contradictions, cognitive biases, false data, and flawed arguments in order to effectively counterattack. In Atomic Habits by James Clear, he talks about how people don't just listen with their ears, but also listen with their eyes and their hearts. This refers to the idea that actions, behaviors, and non-verbal cues are often more influential than the words themselves. In other words, we observe body language, emotions, and the intentions behind what someone says, which can have a much greater impact than just hearing the words. Daniel Goleman, in his book Emotional Intelligence, points out that often people don't listen actively. Instead, they are more focused on formulating their response while the other person is speaking. This prevents true understanding and connection. Listen both with your heart and your eyes, not simply waiting to rebut. True active listening involves understanding and feeling what the other person is communicating. Only then can we truly understand their point of view. This is how we can identify possible fallacies, contradictions, cognitive biases, and false data that the other person might be using, allowing us to elegantly and skillfully refute them effectively. Here, I'll explain some of the most common ones and how to recognize them. We'll talk about cognitive biases in another video separately, but here, just to put it in context, I'll mention that there are many biases identified in psychology and cognitive sciences. Daniel Goleman, an expert in emotional intelligence, highlights that people tend to accept arguments without a solid rational foundation when they are emotionally charged. This phenomenon is related to the emotional cognitive bias, where emotions can cloud our judgment and make us more likely to accept claims that appeal to our feelings, even if they lack solid reasoning. Other common examples include confirmation bias, where we tend to seek information that supports our pre-existing beliefs, anchoring bias, which makes us overly influenced by the first piece of information we receive, or the bandwagon effect, where we adopt opinions or behaviors simply because others are doing the same. These biases, among many others, show how our perception of reality can be distorted, affecting our decisions and judgments. But in this video, we're going to dive deeper into the topic of fallacies. Fallacies are arguments without logical foundation. We'll explore what they are, how to identify them, and how to avoid them. The word fallacy comes from the Latin fallacia, which means deception. The ancient Greeks, great masters of rhetoric and oratory, distinguished between two types of faulty arguments, sophisms and paralogisms. Paralogisms are simply invalid or incorrect arguments, often due to flawed reasoning, but without the intent to deceive. These arguments are usually just poorly structured or based on incorrect premises. But, on the other hand, sophisms are arguments that appear to be sound but are actually deceptive or misleading. These are often deliberately constructed to deceive or manipulate, even though they seem logically valid on the surface. While these arguments don't make rational sense, their emotional impact can lead us to accept them, even if they have no basis. This is what turns a fallacy into a logical deception, its ability to reach the subconscious of the audience through the emotional charge it carries. Let's look at some fallacies. Understanding a few types will be useful for you. The ad hominem is a common fallacy in debates. Instead of attacking the argument, the person's credibility is attacked. Ad hominem fallacies involve questioning someone's arguments, not based on their logic, but on their personality or background. For example, in a debate about public health. I'm surprised you're talking about public health policies when you've always used private healthcare. Here we stop discussing the validity of the proposals and begin attacking the person presenting them. Instead of focusing on the strength of the argument, we focus on the personal history or circumstances of the speaker. Now that we've covered ad hominem fallacies, let's move on to another common fallacy, assuming as true what we want to prove. In this case, instead of supporting an argument with solid evidence, we simply accept something as true. For example, accepting the authority of a person or organization, recommending a product without questioning the validity of their recommendation. And the third type of fallacy is hasty generalization. In this case, we draw a broad conclusion based on very limited experience or information. For example, I saw a taxi driver driving badly in this city, so all taxi drivers must be reckless. The false cause fallacy, post hoc, occurs when we assume that because one event happens after another, the first caused the second. For example, I started exercising, and the next day I caught a cold. It must be that exercise made me sick. And the fallacy of appeal to ignorance occurs when we argue that something is true, simply because no one has proven the contrary. For example, you can't prove that aliens didn't visit Earth, therefore they must have been here. And finally, the fallacy or trick of presenting only a few options as valid. For example, the current party system in Western democracies is presented as the only possible and most advanced form of democracy. But what about other approaches, like holacracy, which replaces traditional power and authority hierarchies with a distributed approach, where the power to make decisions is spread across multiple working circles and not concentrated in a single leader or small group of people? Well, these options are not even known to the public. Only the choice of a party lineup is presented as valid. In a debate, we often face logical fallacies. If your opponent uses them, what should you do? What should you do when you're playing for a promotion or something truly important that you can't afford to lose? Using logical fallacies in an elegant and intelligent way is accepted as part of the game rules in these contexts. Let's now look at how to dismantle and defend against logical fallacies. One of the most effective ways to counter a logical fallacy is by asking for evidence. When your opponent presents an unsupported argument, you can respond elegantly, "Why do you say this method doesn't work? What studies or data support that claim?" Or also, "Can you provide me with 3 solid arguments or evidence that back up your point of view?" Second way to defend yourself, be diplomatic when pointing out the fallacy. Before directly accusing your opponent of using a fallacy, it's important to be elegant and diplomatic. You can start with something like, "I understand your point, but don't you think that's not the only reason?" Or also, "Focusing only on that explanation might be a mistake. What do you think about this other perspective?" By questioning respectfully and reasonably, you not only point out the fallacy, but also open up space for a deeper debate, challenging the logical aspect of the argument without personally attacking your interlocutor. Third way to defend yourself, focus on the audience, not the opponent. Instead of directly confronting your opponent, the most effective approach is to appeal to the audience. It's not about winning the battle against the person in front of you, but about winning over those who are listening. Focus on what really matters, the boss, the audience, or whoever you need to convince. Please, if you like this content, subscribe, share, and leave a like on this video to support it. And this is today's proposal. I always recommend having a few references in oratory or debate. By studying their performances, you can review and understand each of the strategies they use. Watching them frequently will allow you to appreciate how, time and again, they apply techniques flawlessly. Modeling their style will help you naturally incorporate these skills into your own interactions. Over time, you'll master them. Before you know it, you'll have gained expertise and become a true champion in communication. Thanks for watching. If you liked it, please kindly leave a like. I'll see you in the next one.